Testing. Okay, very
Hello.
good.
Hello.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Crafting Interactive World, the Art of Scripting. My name is Magdalena Czarnecka, and I'm an associate scripting lead here in Poland at Warsaw Studio. And with me is here today Leanne.
Hi, I'm Leanne. I'm also an associate lead scripter. I'm in our Guildford studio, though, in the UK.
Yep. All right, so let's start. This is our brief agenda. But I would like to start from the story from actually last year's Digital Dragons, because I wasn't working at Larian last year. So I met one of our recruiters here, Chris, and we got into the talking. He checked my resume, and the first thing he said to me was, "Magda, what about scripting?" And I was like, "No, that doesn't make sense," because at that point in my life, I didn't know what scripting at Larian does. And that's exactly why we are here, because, wink, wink, we will be needing people for my team in the near future. So that's why we're here to explain to you what exactly scripting at Larian does. So yeah. So in general, a bit about the studio. If someone didn't hear about the Larian Studio, here's a brief description. We are known for open world RPGs, where player agency and player freedom comes first. That's why we are known for all of the choices and consequences that are possible in the game. And I will stop now. And of course, also BG3 is known for the hundreds of situations, hundreds of quests that can be solved in multiple ways. All right. So what exactly is scripting? Generally speaking, it's a discipline of creating gameplay, such as a quest or puzzle, using text-based or visual languages. But that doesn't sound sexy. So let's go more into details about what exactly the scripting at Larian does. So from now on, when I will be talking about situations, please have in mind the quest, because that's our internal vocabulary. We call quest situations. So that's our main focus when it comes to our day-to-day work. When it comes to the role itself, it's a mix of the programming and the designer, because we need to think about the plot, the characters that are in it, but on the other hand, we are heavily technical. But in our team, there's a distinction between people that lean towards more into programming, the actual programming and scripting, and people that lean more to the design, like the narrative part of this. But of course, some of them are right in the middle. So yeah. So what exactly do we do, and how briefly the process looks like? So first of all, we receive this design narrative pitch, and we kind of translate it into gameplay sequences. So what we get from the RPG designers, more on that later, is a one-pager with general idea what the situation will be about, what characters are involved, what kind of information the player will get from the situation, and stuff like that. But it's our job to think about possible choices and consequences, and how to create actual gameplay sequences. In easier words, what to click on, when, and why it will be fun. So that's the first part in our process. But also we have to be careful, because we are dependent on many other departments, such as RPG designers, which we talk to on the daily basis to get the script, to get the actual plot interesting and without any obstacles or plot errors. But we are also in close collaboration with writers and with cinematics. So pretty much every department in Larian. And what's really important, we are the people that are starting working on the quest, on the situation. So we are all also the team that needs to unblock other teams so they could contribute. After this, there's actual implementation of the existing systems or thinking about the systems that are not yet in the game, but could be fun for the player. So when it comes to choices and possibilities, we need to take into consideration the global system. So everything that is possible in the game is possible in the game in any given moment. And that's also something very, very important for us. But also, if situation requires it on its fun, we are creating something new. And of course, the last part is we actually script, but more on that, how the scripting looks like, what tools are we using, will come a bit later. All right. Okay, when it comes to designing side of the situation, what is really important is that, of course, it's fun for the player, because that's the most important thing. And also, we are trying to do situation in a way that each of the situation will be unique in some way. Of course, some plots, some introductions could be the same, but we are trying to do something unique, something special in every one of them. And of course, what I was telling previously, we need to have in mind this systemic approach. At the end of the day, it's a video game. It has its own mechanics, so it also has to be taken into consideration. The third big pillar of it is the player engagement and actual choices and consequences, decision making. So all the possible branching of the situation and of the whole plot have to be taken into consideration. And as our games are could be played in multiplayer, this adds another layer to the how we have to think about our situation, because two players can, or more players can be in different places at the same time, and we also need ways to handle that. All right. So what are the biggest challenges when we are thinking about our situations? So the first and foremost is how the situation places in the main story, and what kind of choices and consequences player could have that can actually affect the main plot, but also the other situations. Think about, for example, characters or character arcs, our companions. What we do with the companions should reflect the main story and, of course, the character arc. Also, how origin stories can change the situations. Origins are not the character that players create by themselves, but the characters that are given to the player. So for example, if you're starting the new game in BG3, you can choose to play as Gale, which actually alters how the story progresses, the dialogue choices, and small and bigger details that you can see in the game. And again, we need to think how to engage the player to actually use the systems that we have in the game, like telegraph to the player that they are possible here. So it will be fun to actually discover what is possible in a given situation. Next one is what I was telling about previously. So we are really important in the whole process. So we are the ones that are unblocking other departments so they can actually work. But the most fun and cool thing about scripting is thinking about edge casing and this what-if moment, so what you players can do in our game that we also have to think about. So this is where the magic happens. So we think, of course, about how you can break our systems and how creative you can be with the given tools within the game. But also, sometimes we are asking ourselves a question, what if player romances a bear? Because that's what we do. And on the next slide, I think we should have the video, but it's not there, Yeah. Can we play the video right now? That will give you an example of very simple but yet effective
We don't want any
what-if
trouble.
moment.
But you're bloody getting some if you don't.
Lads, for the love of all that is holy, I've never clapped eyes on your poor sister.
Drop the act, hag. You was the last to see me, Rena.
Just let her go. Please.
You there? Please, I don't know what's come over these boys. I just want to go home.
Stop this. We won't ask again.
Bollocks! You were supposed to rush to my defense, love. Fat lot of good you are. Some advice? You ever darken my door, you'd best have that head bowed and an apology at the ready. Bye-bye now.
Okay, we can stop here. Yeah, so that was a very simple yet effective example how we can handle very basic choices and consequences. So majority of the players will probably rush to the damsel in distress, but it's not a damsel and she's not really in distress. And later on, spoilers ahead in this presentation, it will have some consequences to the player, even though the choice that the player had seems to be really like small. All right, sorry. Oh, no, 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 no. Yeah, our tools. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So I will briefly explain what kind of tools we are using, because what I hear a lot is that scripting is mostly programming, which is not the case. But yeah, we are using some, let's say, programming languages. So the first one, our bread and butter, is Osiris, which is actually the scripting language that we develop on our own. That's why it's, easy to learn, hard to master, let's put it that way.
It's unique.
It's unique, okay, that's a better word for it, yeah. It's based mostly on the ifs, then, and it handles majority of our situation. Also, it connects with the global mechanics, and this is like our bread and butter and other daily work. We script with Osiris. Another language that we use is Anubis. It's based on scripting language Lua, and we use it mostly for behaviors, so simple background NPC behaviors such as patrolling, like doing something, like playing an idle animation and stuff like that. And they are both combined to make our situations possible. But we are also writing dialogues. But we are not writers. We are not writing these beautiful dialogues that you see in the final game. We are writing something that we call stub dialogues, because we are handling the actual flow of the dialogue. So what kind of answers could player have, or what kind of question could player have, depending on what kind of choices player had before this dialogue started, for example, or where the skill check should happen. What could be the outcome of the dialogue? For a very simple example is, if the dialogue says attack, then we are scripting that the combat starts right after dialogue ended. But again, we are not writers, we are just handling this beautiful dialogue tree. And this is actually the example of small one. So, yeah. On top of that, we are having variety of other tools. Depending on where are we in the development, we are using different tools. Those are like two examples. Constellations are the actually visual scripting language that we use for interaction between two or more objects in the world. So, example, there's a lever and there's a lift coming down. So that's something that we use for that. And we are also responsible for journal editor entries, so everything, if you do something in the quest, the journal should reflect that, to put it simply. Okay, and from now on, there will be a lot of spoilers about BG3, so if someone didn't play BG3, please cover your ears, and I will get the voice to Leanne.
Cool, thank you. I know, that was a lot, thank you. So yeah, spoilers ahead. We'll try and keep it light as much as possible, but I mean, the game has been out for a few years now, so if you haven't played it, please do. Yeah, some spoilers. So. I want to go over the first example and go over our high-level process. So as Magda explained, we get the narrative pitch, we then integrate our systems where we can, and then we do our unique scripts. So a good example of this is the Strange Ox. So, oh, and also I worked on all of these. I wasn't the only one, of course. This all takes a village, really, to get all of these things together. But yeah, so this is the quick and easy example, I hope. So narrative pitch. So yeah, this is a strange little guy. Spoiler, it's not actually an ox. He's a weird slime creature. So the idea was that you could meet him originally one time. You would meet him once and agree to help him get to Baldur's Gate. That's his aim. You can choose to help him or not, or attack him, or do whatever you feel you want to do. But we expanded that a little bit. We thought, oh, it would be great if you could meet him in multiple locations. So that was the new narrative beats that we wanted to hit. So the idea was to have him in 3 locations. And then in the end location, you can then choose to pick up his quest or not. And ideally, you would have gone through this whole process with him and got to know him and help him, maybe. So yeah, this took a lot of collaboration with the RPG designer and the writers to get the tone right on this as well, to make sure, yeah, you wanted to know more about this weird creature. And then from that, integrating the existing systems. So the most obvious one, of course, speak with animals. Yeah, we absolutely needed to integrate that. As much as this isn't actually an ox, when it's in its ox form, it should behave as it is an ox, so speak with animals, of course. And then with that, we then have to decide, okay, well, how much information should you know if you have speak with animals versus not? How much do we want to give you early on versus later on? So that's part of that process as well. And then another example is combat, of course. So we integrate that as much as we can, where we can. We make it unique where we can. So this was another opportunity for that. So again, because you can meet it in 3 different locations, and you can choose to attack it and start combat in any of those locations. But the unique twist is that if you do that, in each location, it takes on another form in each location. So it's just another added little twist that we did. Another existing system is obviously crimes and disturbances. So a good example of that, this ox is in a lot of, the first 2 locations you find it in is very somewhat crowded areas with other characters in it. So yeah, we had to consider disturbances as part of that. So if you choose to attack it in the Druid's Grove, there's tieflings nearby. And as far as they're concerned, you've just attacked their animal. So of course, we wanted to implement some existing crime reactions to that. So once we've done all of that, we then write the unique scripts to cover everything else. So as I mentioned, this creature you can meet in 3 different locations, but we didn't want it to be that you had to meet it in every single location in order to get the end quest. If you missed it in the Druid's Grove in Act 1, but met it at Last Light Inn in Act 2, you could still eventually get the quest. The dialogue structure would just be a little bit different. There was a lot of variation here because we wanted to allow you to still get the information you needed to take it to Baldur's Gate if you wanted, even if you hadn't met it in a previous location. So there was ton of variation that we had to consider in the dialogue for this. So that was unique. And then reactivity based on the state of the world. So this is a really important one. So again, the best example here is because the ox is in Druid's Grove, and if you've played, you know that Druid's Grove can end up in multiple different states. So if you hadn't spoken to it yet, and the Druid's Grove ended up in a chaos state, the ox has to obviously react to that. So in that case, it would flee, and you wouldn't be able to see it. But if you'd met it before that, all good, you would have met it. So yeah, that's kind of the somewhat simple explanation of the whole process with one character. So it just shows, like, yeah, I hope how much goes into each of these situations.
And that was very simple one.
That's a simple
situation. Yeah.
And this was my first one. This is what I first worked on when I joined Larian. So yeah, a good one. This one. If anyone was here last year at Digital Dragons, Adam Smith in his and Chris Fawson's presentation, they touch on Yenna a little bit. So I won't go into too much detail on the narrative front. I'll try and stick to just the scripting so you get new information. But basically, at the start of Act 3, you can meet Yenna. She's a little girl. She's lost. She's looking for some help. So that was the narrative brief. From my side, I was just told, hey, we need another character at the start of Act 3. Here's her backstory. Here's why we need her. So the why is there is an antagonist in Act 3, Orin, and basically she's looking to abduct one of your companions. So Yenna was introduced because, well, what if you didn't have any companions? Okay, you're playing Lone Wolf, you don't have any companions, so who does Orin kidnap? So that's why we introduced Yenna. Another caveat was that Orin only goes for your romance companion. So that's either the ones that we covered were Lae'zel, Gale, and Halcyon. But what if you weren't romancing any of those? Okay, well, enter Yenna. So yeah, she's our N+1 solution. So that's basically our backup. If you haven't got any of those companions that meet that criteria, this was the fallback. So you will always meet Yenna. You don't always have to take her in. She will persist, but you don't have to. But the idea here was that, we wanted you to always have someone that you had at least seen. If it wasn't a companion, you would at least go, oh, I remember that kid. Like, yeah. And another reason why we went for a child, you can't murder children in Baldur's Gate 3. So that was perfect. It aligned perfectly because, like, if it was an adult and you killed the adult, then that we would need another fallback to that, whereas we don't have to consider that for a child, so that just naturally worked out. Interestingly, though, she has a cat, Grub, and we found through testing, of course, that you could kill the cat earlier than it can be killed later down the line. So we did have to do a little bit of extra scripting there to make sure you couldn't kill the cat before it's supposed to die. If you know, you know. And we're very sorry about that. So the next one, this is a very, very interesting one. So this is our intermezzo. It is where it's the end of Act 2, start of Act 3. We need to set everything up before you get into the city, into Worm's Crossing. So the setup here was you've left Act 2 in whatever state it's in. We kind of don't really care. We just care that you've left. And we take you straight to camp. So that was the brief for us, was this is a camp night, but it just goes a little bit different than a normal camp night. Obviously, a regular camp night is usually just a cutscene of some kind, or some kind of interaction. But here, you have combat. You're woken up in the middle of the night by something. Combat ensues, a portal opens, and you go through the portal and you end up in the astral prism, and you meet a key character. Spoiler, maybe. You meet the Emperor. And basically, so you had to experience that moment. So this is where we had to break some rules a little bit, because we obviously want to allow as much player freedom as possible. But sometimes we just need you to experience a certain thing the way that it's intended to be experienced. So the way that we did that, to still give some agency as well, is as I mentioned, there's the portal to the astral prism. Once you go in, you're in. You can't get out until you get to the end of that sequence of events. So that's, we kind of created an arena of some kind that, once you're in, get to the end, and then you can leave. Some of the difficulties here, like I mentioned, all of this is technically a camp night. But this isn't how camp nights work. They're usually just, a cutscene or some minor interactions. So we really had to get, a lot of content into this one night, because once you then leave the astral prism, it's still time to rest. You can still go to sleep because you haven't technically been to sleep. You've been interrupted. And then it's at that point that you then enter Worm's Crossing. So, this is just an example of where we lead you. Where we lead you into this experience, where you can choose to side with this character or not. That's your choice, and you can see what happens if you do it either way. But once you get to the other side, then you progress into Act 3. And
can we get the second video? The cheese?
So we have, just one final example that's just a little bit of fun.
My fury!
Don't waste a step.
So that is just a perfect example of a scripter having a lot of fun. Basically, this scripter pitched this idea, implemented it in a white boxed fashion. It was then playable, and everyone loved it. And that then led to, obviously, as you saw there, other teams getting involved. You can jump. It has stats. It does a lot more.
Unique animations.
Very unique animation. That then required other teams' input. So, but it's just a fun example of where we have a lot of agency to make something, unique, but unexpected, I hope, as well, and memorable. Yeah.
So, a brief summary. So now you should know what scripters at Larian are doing. So, obviously, it's much more than just scripting. We design our situation. Yes, we script them, we implement it, we play them, we review them. We are dependent on, a lot of other departments, and we work closely together to get the best situation possible to the players. And the cycle can repeat until we actually release the game, but to be honest, it's also sometimes after the release. We are working really closely with narrative team and designs, but please remember that we are not writers. Yep, we write dialogues, but only the stop ones. There's many challenges when it comes to creating what we call, the Larian situation, Larian quest. But it's a part of the fun, and we can put, for example, jumping cheese in the game. Why not? And homework for you guys: if you will playing the Larian games, like after you get home, think about what if I do this or that, and see if that's possible, because probably it will be, and it will be something cool and surprising. Yeah. So thank you for today, and we go into Q&A.
Thank you very much. If anybody has questions, that's the time.
It's too tall. Okay, I'm standing on my tiptoes. My question, thank you. I could have done it myself, but I didn't think about what ifs. So my question is regarding, you said that you cooperate with a lot of different departments, and there's a lot of creative work involved with scripting. Do you ever face decision paralysis or being overwhelmed by all the possibilities? And if you do, how do you deal with that?
Ooh, that's a really good one. The decision paralysis, the way that we try and cope with that, I kind of touched on it a little bit, but it's where we try and have a state-driven approach. So if I can give a very quick example. So for example, there's a door that's in your way and it's locked. As a developer, as the scripter, I don't care how that door is how it's unlocked. I just care that it is unlocked. So I check for that state rather than, you use knock on it or you hit it with your axe. We're not checking for every single little thing that you can do to get it unlocked or opened. We're checking more for the state of the item, the world, the character. Yeah, more of a state-driven approach rather than trying to account for every single little thing that can be done, because that would then lead to that, because I don't know that there would be any way that we could try and cover every little thing. We try, and that's where we do try and have a little bit of fun with those ones. If we can make something unique and there's scope for it, then we'll absolutely do that. But where we can cover things in a more state-driven way, we can and we should, and then that ideally gives us more time for those more specific, fun edge cases. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see. And my second question, a simpler one: who creates narrative briefs?
Tough.
The narratives team, i.e. Sven and Adam, so the narrative team, alongside our RPG designers as well. They work really closely with that team. So when we say the narrative team, it's usually those people that then bring it to scripters and writers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh no, it's too low. Thank you so much. Okay, help me understand, what is the difference between an RPG designer and a scripter? So what each team does?
Okay, I think the most important difference is that RPG designers are not implementing it in the engine. They are mostly, creating a lot of documentation for us to base our scripting on. That's the brief explanation. So they are more on the narration side, and we are a bit more on the technical side. But please remember that the creativity comes both ways. So we are in a constant contact with them, and we are creating cool stuff together. So yeah, and RPG designer is more of the senior position, I would say. It requires also a bit of manager experience because they're taking care of the regions, what we call in the game. So they are overviewing much more than a single scripter. Scripter is usually assigned to few situations, and RPG designer, who is a region lead, have whole region under them. Yeah.
Thank you. And as a scripter, how much agency do you have over the quest? So, for example, getting the Strange Ox quest, can you add a new outcome or something like that?
Yeah, we can. We can definitely propose that. So yeah, at that point where we get that narrative brief, and it says, it's usually a paragraph or something, and it'll give us the backstory of, that character and the outcomes, if necessary. And yeah, that's where we can propose, it would be really cool if actually, we took the thing all the way to Baldur's Gate, and it was actually, rather than it being inside our inventory hidden away, maybe it's actually a follower, right? And we can propose, it's a very quick example, but yeah, we can definitely propose additions to the narrative brief or changes to the narrative brief. We can absolutely do that. It's then a discussion between us and RPG design, and maybe even the writer as well, depending on how far along in the process we are, to then figure out, okay, what's the scope on this thing? Is it going to be worth all of us doing this together if it requires more dialogue, or then does it then affect more teams? Animation, maybe the cheese is a good example here, right? That actually, the work that required, we decided that it was worth the scope because it was just so fun and interesting. So it depends what the idea is, and if it sticks, and if we can get a playable prototype in quick enough as well to really showcase that idea, that helps obviously as well. So yeah, it definitely depends, but overall, yes, we absolutely can.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your amazing work.
Thank you.
Come on, don't be shy. Yes.
It's perfect. So I have a question. When you're working in a large group on one quest, and let's say everybody has different approach and different idea on the quest, so do you go and play a session in D&D to try to solve whose idea was better, or do you go to your supervisor and ask him?
Well, to be honest, the RPG designer has the last word because that's the senior position. But always there is a discussion prior to any decision, so our input is always taken into consideration. So that's the thing. We didn't have as much tension between what the situation could be because we know what kind of game we are creating and what is important in that. So yeah, honestly, I wouldn't say there's much tension that we actually need to get into some kind of battle whose idea is better. It's more about dialogue and talking to each other and throwing ideas at each other.
Yeah. What also helps as well is, because then it's a discussion with the scripter on, okay, let's say we've got 3 different ideas on how to progress this specific situation. If time allows, we can implement those variations through debug and try each one out. If time allows, it would really depend on what it is exactly. And then that could help inform that decision. If we can actually play the thing and see which one of those works best, then it's a no-brainer. Then whoever's idea is, then yeah, great, good.
I hear that you say that prototyping, gives you much more than just talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One more.
Yeah, we were too quick.
Yeah. Yeah, we're quick. Wow.
Hey, how do you feel or react if players actually do something which you didn't take into consideration?
I wish I thought of that. Yeah. That's my honest reaction, yeah.
I don't know that it applies to that exactly, but it's kind of related. So using Intermezzo as an example, there was a point just after release where there was a bug where I described you go into the astral prism, you're in this arena. It's basically a danger zone. So danger zones means you can't leave, you can't rest in any kind of way. Oh no, you can short rest, sorry. But you can't long rest until you get out of the danger zone. So the whole astral prism is a danger zone. There was a bug that even though it was a danger zone, players figured out that they could long rest. And that messed everything up. As I mentioned, this whole sequence of events was supposed to happen during a camp night where you're effectively sleeping, and not sleeping, but it's nighttime. But if you long rested during the astral prism sequence, it would then become daytime. You've rested. So you would leave the astral prism and it would be daytime. And that was an issue. You couldn't progress. That was a pretty huge bug that I had to fix very early on. So that is kind of related, but yeah, I guess another example might be when people were using barrels to get higher above things. Yes. That was somehow unexpected. Yeah, we didn't quite expect the scope of the thing that people were going to do. Honestly, we love it because it then ends up being a discussion after release. Every time we got a bug through that said something like that, it ended up being a discussion to say, oh, but that's kind of cool that the player figured that out. Like, it's not a bug, it's actually quite fun, and if it doesn't break anything, they're still able to progress and get to the end of whatever the situation is. Okay, cool, like, fine, yeah. But it does then give us more, ammunition for next time to think, okay, well, do we want to cover this next time? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've got all these situations that are obviously sometimes connected into something larger. Do you treat them as like separate situations if they happen in different places, or do you have another type of structure that joins those situations into like more traditional quests? How you do handle that?
Per situation basis is how we handle it. So each scripter gets a situation, and if that situation ties in with other situations, we just need to then communicate and collaborate between ourselves. A good example would be, for example, a scripter would own an origin character. So for example, Leanne had a dedicated scripter that worked on that character. And obviously she's involved in a lot of different situations. She's interested in a lot of different situations. But that scripter for Leanne doesn't have to work in all of those situations, but they do need to be involved in all of the discussions, reviews, all that sort of thing. But it would be individual scripters, other scripters working on each situation. So yeah, we wouldn't normally have like one scripter own like, oh, this whole like quest line. Yeah, we tend to split it off. We have a lot of scripters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, and one addition, we also think about the connections between situations very early on. So when the narration pitch ended, actually the part of the process is also figuring out the connections. Yeah, so.
Hey, at what point does the writers go in? So, in other words, what's the workflow? The first is the narrative and the RPG designers. Then the scripters work on and create a prototype, and then the writers go in? Oh, how does it work?
Exactly that, yeah. Yeah, as Magda mentioned, scripters will write the stub dialogue, so we'll write all or as many nodes as we can that are functional for our purposes to make sure all of the things connect, but the writers then come in and obviously do their thing, and usually add a lot more nodes to expand it out, but they'll use our I guess, dialogue framework that we've built, the nodes that we've used, the flags that we've set up to base their new nodes on. So yeah, they would come after us in every case, yeah, pretty much.
We were so fast. Yeah. Just shout. We can hear you. Or?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you consider a scripter to be a path that would lead to becoming an RPG designer?
Well, my first instinct would say no, because they're like completely different disciplines. So RPG designer is more the narrative designer, and they work more with the plots and characters and everything. Once we are more like translating this into video game language, so to say, maybe in some cases that will be a possibility. I think it was a possibility in one of the cases. Oh, yeah, I just remember. Yeah. So it was a case, but Leanne, was it a usual one or
it's
an
definitely
exception?
It's an exception, I would say. I guess as a general point, maybe this is just like a personal opinion, but I wouldn't typically think of any department as a route into another department. So, for example, QA shouldn't be seen as a route into another department. It's its own department that needs specialists. And I would say the same for scripting. Entering scripting requires a very specific mindset. And maybe that same mindset can be in this one case. Yeah, someone did go from scripter to RPG design. So it can be morphed, I guess, into that mindset. But I would say traditionally, no, it would be each department, is its own thing. And so I would say, no, but it can happen. It's happened in other departments too, I guess, in other studios too. Like, you can become a combat designer after working in maybe scripting as well. Yeah, maybe that then leads into that. There's nothing to say that's not possible. Absolutely not. But it would require a mindset shift.
But it's an edge case, yeah?
That's exactly it. Thank you. We were on time. Oh.
What is, like, for you both, what is your favorite quest or situation you've worked on?
That's the part of random trivia. I'm at Larian for 4 months, so so I didn't work on the BG3.
Yeah, what did you like? What was your favorite to play?
What was my favorite to play? That's a tough one. Everything involving Karlach and her character arc. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I think so, and everything that was connected to major spoiler Baldurian.
Yes.
Major spoiler. Sorry, guys.
A favorite to work on, the Strange Ox. It was, I guess the story behind that. So I joined Larian about a year before release, and it was the first thing I worked on. I got the pitch for it on day 3 or 4, I think. I was just flung right in. You know, it's a year before release. We need to just get things done. So I very quickly had to, get the ball rolling on that. And it was a small situation, but I was able to just like see the whole process through quite quickly, again, because it was quite small. So I think it will be my favorite for a while, because it's also quite fun seeing that people got to the end of the thing, because we intentionally didn't make it like a quest. So it was fun to see the reaction to that character, because it's just a weird guy. And to see that people did actually get to the end was quite satisfying, so yeah.